Hello everybody, welcome to your weekly forecast for the week of August 14th through the 20th of 2017. There is a lot going on this week. High pressure involving Venus this entire week. And this next week is all about testing our limits, right? Testing our power and stepping into our power, right? With Venus, with how we have cultivated our self-worth, with where we wish to create and manifest the new life that we are building, that we are slowly changing into, that we are slowly shifting everything in our reality to manifest, right? With the Jupiter-Pluto square that has been a theme and an emphasis throughout this entire month thus far. With eclipse season as well, testing us to our limits of how we wish to change, how we wish to grow, how we wish to evolve, what new tribes we need to cultivate, not only in whatever groups and relationships we're already in, but as well as what we create for the future based on our soul frequency, right? And before we get to the end of this eclipse season, we're going through a big testing ground with Venus in Cancer, right? So to start off the week, on Monday, August 14th, we have the moon in Taurus. Today, the last quarter square of the moon in Taurus, squaring over to the sun and Mars in Leo, as well as the nodes. And Taurus rules Venus, right? So extra emphasis on Venus throughout this entire week, and we're launching off with the moon in Taurus, last quarter square of the moon, squaring over to the nodes as the sun is getting ready to exactly conjunct the North Node in Leo. And Venus is starting to slowly build up pressure. It will be exactly opposing Pluto on the very next day, right? So on Monday, with the last quarter square of the moon in Taurus, this is all about figuring out what we value, right? Figuring out what we wish to manifest, figuring out what is our most productive use of energy, right? What's worth it and what's not? What is valuable for us to create? What is the most efficient way for us to create what we desire, right? And what is not? And the moon in Taurus is asking us to focus on what we love, right? With all of this energy in Leo, major emphasis on our heart space, our heart frequency, our soul frequency, right? And we're trying to get to the bottom of what it is we do love, what feels right to us, what resonates with us personally. But with the moon in Taurus, and all of this pressure and energy building with Venus throughout this entire week, right? This is asking us, how do we change? How do we change from here on out? The answer that we're trying to get to with Mercury officially retrograde now, opposing Neptune, stationed in the sky, and our left brain, in a sense, being somewhat offline. We have 6 planets retrograde right now. We have Mercury, we have Neptune, we have Pluto, we have Saturn, and we have Uranus and Chiron, right? All of these planets retrograde. We only have the sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Venus to fall back on, right? To lead us forward, to progress forward, trying to expand our horizons, right? And as we are at this point where we must, where we know that all of this energy is building up towards the solar eclipse in Leo, we know that we're getting ready to come to this almost split decision as the consciousness of humanity itself is coming to this ultimate apex where it will symbolically and quite literally split into different polarities, right? Those who choose to stay asleep, right? The sleeping lion, the lion sleeps tonight, you know. Most of the collective with the South Node in Aquarius, and what we're already seeing in the news, you know, with this past lunar eclipse in Aquarius, all of this talk of war and racism, and, you know, stuff that goes back all the way back through our collective history, that has been coming up to be somewhat purged and revealed and whistle blown in a sense. Nothing is really particularly new about anything that's going on our planet right now. It's just the fact that everything is so blatant and in our face. That's the difference, right? And all of this fear is building up to keep us asleep, in a sense. But there are those of us who will choose to rise. There are those of us who would choose to live in our heart frequency. Those who would choose to rise into our power. Those who will choose to become their higher self. And we recognize that this requires an absolute, almost overwhelming degree of courage. The courage to live in our heart frequency. The courage to love despite everything, right? Love despite everything. And the answer we're trying to seek right now is not available, as Mercury is retrograde, opposing Neptune, right? Trying to get to the bottom of our desires, of our subconscious, of our fears, of our hopes, wishes, and dreams, right? Of what we wish to manifest, of our intuition, in a sense. Is our intuition correct? Are we being pulled towards the right things? Are we going down the right path, right? Mercury in Virgo wants to get to the bare bottom facts of whatever it is trying to manifest. It's trying to fix everything. What we feel is somewhat ephemeral and confusing and emotionally catastrophic, emotionally chaotic, right? With Neptune, where it's dissolving the ego, it's dissolving reality as we know it, it's dissolving relationships, boundaries, limitations, right? And Mercury kind of wants to put it all in a box and give it a name, right? Give it a label and fix whatever it is we believe is plaguing us. Fix whatever it is we believe is causing this, all of this subconscious sense of stuckness in our lives, right? Sense of disillusionment. And the answer to all of this, right? While we cannot figure it out with our logical minds, with our left brains, as Mercury is offline, as most of the planets right now are offline, this last quarter square in Taurus is about recognizing that the only way to get what we love, even though it's requiring this dramatic major shifts in our lives, right? Even though we're having to completely transform inside and out regarding how we love, regarding how we do things, regarding how we manifest, right? It's requiring big changes and outer shifts in our reality and our perception of reality as well. But ultimately it comes down to making the decree to become a better person. Making the decree to be better than you've been before. To sort of upstage yourself, upstage who you've been up to this point. Even though ultimately the journey will require these major shifts, the most important shift we can make is within ourselves, right? Is within how we value ourselves, how we see our self-worth, how we see ourselves in the situations that we're in. If we see everything as this big mess, right? If we see everything as a sort of dense cloud keeping us in this bubble, right? Keeping us feeling stuck, keeping us feeling limited in a sense. Wherever we feel limited, wherever we feel stuck, wherever we feel dense and almost somewhat depressed, right? The shift comes in shifting your degree of self-worth for yourself, right? And it requires us to focus on what is our most productive use of energy, focusing on how we can efficiently love what is in front of us, how we can efficiently improve ourselves step by step, little by little, to get to the ultimate destination that Jupiter square Pluto has sort of revealed to us, right? Okay, so on Tuesday, August 15th, Venus makes its exact opposition to Pluto retrograde. And so T-square week officially begins, right? And the moon shifts into Gemini, which is highlighting Mercury retrograde, which is bringing even more of this confusing energy, this chaotic, sort of destabilizing, sort of primary focus on shifting and changing and improving and fixing what's in front of us, right? Our life situations. Mercury in Virgo retrograde is requiring us to look at our day-to-day reality, especially because we no longer have the North Node in Virgo. It's not requiring such a it's not so heavy anymore, right? What's in front of us is no longer so heavy. We're able to be more flexible. We're able to somewhat bend reality to our will, right? But Mercury retrograding over where the North Node had been last year, at this time last year, right? Now we can begin to make the shifts that we knew we needed to make back then. Now we can begin to change our lives in the way that it needs to be fixed, right? Now we can continue to improve. Now we can continue to progress as we have all this fire energy building, requiring us to make this leap of courage into the life of our dreams, right? The only way to do so is to be intensely disciplined, realistic, and detail-oriented. Right? And it's looking beyond the details as Mercury is retrograde. It's not just about signing the contract and you're okay, right? And you're rolling. It's about more than the surface level change. The surface level change doesn't get to what really needs to shift, which is our entire perception of reality itself, which is why Mercury is retrograding during eclipse season. This is a gift, ultimately. Most astrologers will tell you, it's somewhat strange how Mercury is retrograding during eclipse season because there's all of this intense energy going on. We have 6 planets retrograde as well. And we have an upcoming solar eclipse in Leo propelling us into the next decades of our lives, right? However we choose to harness it, however we choose to harness the eclipse and the Leo archetype, right? However we choose to step into our power. And it's one of the most powerful and intense eclipses of our lifetime. With it in a fixed fire sign in Leo, with as well all of these outer planets in fire signs trining over to it, creating a grand fire trine, right? Opening a portal into our soul frequency, opening a soul fire portal, which propels us into a whole entire new vision for our life, right? But with the moon in Gemini and Venus opposing Pluto in Cancer, this is forcing us to face our deepest subconscious fears, right? This entire week is about testing our limits to step into our power, what keeps us from stepping into our power, and how we can become a better person right on the spot. However we've done things before needs to be shifted. However we've done things before needs to be transformed, needs to be transcended, needs to be cultivated into a productive, efficient use of our energy, right? We can no longer waste our time, waste our energy, waste our resources, right? We must be completely dedicated to the path that we know we must walk. individually as well as collectively. And Venus opposing Pluto, 17 degrees exact. We're looking at not only our subconscious fears that keep us from walking the path, right? Not only our own ego regarding our relationships and our ability to create and manifest, but as well as our desires, our deepest desires, what we truly ultimately feel connected to, right? Regarding our self-worth, regarding our relationships, regarding our financial situations, regarding our ability to manifest and create what we desire. This is the underbelly. This is facing the underworld. And everything that we've hidden somewhat becomes exposed, right? And it's about how you react to what is exposed. Not everything will be pleasant, and not everything will be bad. It's about looking at everything, right? And as you look at everything, the picture becomes more real. It's not about just the dream, and it's not about just the fear. How can you coalesce the two, integrate the two, to create a whole picture, a holistic picture that reveals the entire truth of what you desire, of what you ultimately are connected to? This is the opposition between reality with Pluto and Capricorn, forcing us to get to the bottom of whatever is in our life, right? Pluto and Capricorn retrograde, requiring us to dig up everything that has repressed our soul frequency. Every attachment to tradition, every attachment to the past, to our history, to the collective, somewhat state, right? Big Brother state, in a sense. If you remember, if you've ever read 1984, that's how I kind of see Pluto and Capricorn right now, requiring us to get to the bottom of what has been subtly controlling our minds in the back of things, that has created this somewhat double think process that we've been in and out of for most of our lives, right? We have a thought, right? We have a thought that is pure, that is connected to who we are. And then we have another thought that overlays that thought, that somewhat either restricts or dismisses the original thought, that contradicts it in a sense, because it does not align with societal standards or societal expectations or traditional ways of thinking. And this is the source of our fear. This is the source of our subconscious feeling of being stuck. And with the moon in Gemini, highlighting Mercury retrograde during all of this, this is, our mind is all over the place. Everything is chaotic. Everything is pulling us in two different directions at once, multiple different directions at once. And even though everything is coming up, everything is coming out, everything is being exposed for what it is, we are able to look at the underbelly of what we really feel, as well as the reality of what we feel. This is melding together reality and feelings, right? Because it's not just, okay, you see point blank what it is. You see what is, right? But you also see what can be. You also see what you want to be, what you feel, what you connect to, what you resonate with, what is comfortable to you, right? And not necessarily everything you feel is comfortable to you. And this is not the time to get freaked out about what it is, right? Because on Wednesday, August 16th, we have the Sun conjuncting the North Node in Leo, right? 24 degrees. And as this happens, the moon will still be in Gemini, squaring over to Mercury retrograde and Neptune retrograde, and opposing Saturn retrograde. So there is this mini mutable grand cross, right? Very, very destabilizing energy. Very, very chaotic, somewhat scattered all over the place, can't figure it out, almost paranoid frequency. It's like the battle between what we feel, what we think we see, what we think we feel. And it's hard to see how everything comes together. It's hard to see what comes after this, right? It's hard to know if the path we're walking down is the right path. What is the right path? And with the moon opposing Saturn, right? This can be almost a depressing aspect, but it's realizing that what is right in front of you right now, whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever it is that you're coming up against, it's meant for you. It's meant for you because you are learning something from it. Everything is very, very karmic right now, with Saturn involved, as well as us being in the middle of eclipse season. Everything is supremely karmic. Everything is fated. Everything is somewhat predetermined. And it's in realizing that everything happens in its own natural development, in its own natural timing, not necessarily completely aligned with your own timing, right? And it's in that many lessons are being learned, right? And through it all, through all the chaos, through all of the circumstances and the situations that are coming up right now, everything that we're dealing with, ultimately at the core of it all, with the sun conjuncting the North Node, this is finding your purpose and your divine direction through it all, right? Because this is the only thing that keeps you centered. This is the only thing that keeps you in your heart frequency, is when you know where you're going ultimately. Ultimately, you know what your heart is drawn to, where your heart is leading you. It's leading you back to your soul. And everything else is sort of, swirling around you. It's like you're in the eye of the hurricane, right? And it's just letting the cycle pass over you, because you know after the storm settles, everything will be revealed for what it is, right? Everything will make sense eventually as we're putting the puzzle pieces together. But they're not all together right now. We're slowly getting snippets of the whole story. But this is not the whole story. So don't get freaked out, right? So Thursday, August 17th, we have Venus still in the Cardinal T-Square, right? But this time it will exactly square Jupiter in Libra, which Libra is another sign that rules Venus. And the same day Venus will be officially coming out of the Cardinal T-Square, but there will still be a very heavy influence, right? And as well, we hop right into the dark moon in Cancer, which is preparing for the eclipse on Monday. So this is all about changing who we are, changing our belief structures, right, regarding our relationships, regarding how we operate, regarding how we love each other, how we communicate with each other, how we relate to each other, how we see the other, right? And as well, changing what we commit to inside of ourselves. With Jupiter requiring us to expand in Libra, in the archetype of Libra, right? In the archetype of love, fairness, harmony, and balance, right? In justice, in relating to the other as a self in society. How groups of people relate to one another as well, with the South Node in Aquarius. With the dark moon in Cancer as well, emphasizing somewhat haunted memories, right? Whatever we're getting ready to commit to, wherever we're shifting regarding our self-worth, regarding our relationships, regarding our finances, right? Regarding whatever we're creating in our lives, to make this ultimate shift, to step into this ultimate journey, right? That we're getting ready to embark upon. There is this connection to the past with Venus in Cancer and the dark moon in Cancer, which will cross over it the next day. But it's almost as if, as we're standing on this brink of the decision, right? As we're standing in front of this massive change we know we need to make, we are allowing emotional renewal in. We're figuring out how we can emotionally renew ourselves. And it's almost as if with the dark moon in Cancer and Venus in Cancer ruling Jupiter in Libra, which is squaring over just Pluto still, not exact, but there is still the influence there throughout this entire month, right? And squaring over to Venus itself. It's almost as if we are asking ourselves, will the past repeat itself? Making this decision, stepping into this journey, stepping into this massive change we are making. Will the past repeat itself? Is the ultimate question, is the fear that is haunting us. Haunted memories. Dark moon in Cancer is haunted memories, right? Whatever major decisions we're getting ready to cultivate, whatever we're getting ready to leap into, right? Are we comfortable through it all? It's checking in with our emotions. It's checking in with where perhaps we do not feel comfortable, where perhaps we believe the past will repeat itself. And this is requiring us to not make a decision based on whatever the dark moon in Cancer is bringing up, right? Because it's bringing up what you fear will repeat itself. What you fear will emotionally wound you all over again, right? Can you expand in your heart is the ultimate question. Can you expand when you have all of this past baggage that you feel that is holding you back? And on Friday, August 18th, even though Venus is officially out of the T-Square, it will quincunx Saturn retrograde, as the dark moon in Cancer is exactly conjuncting Venus and opposing Pluto and squaring over to Jupiter, which is still activating this T-square, right? So we recognize that whatever decisions we're making are heavy, they're weighted, they're big, life transforming, life transformative, right? It's requiring a complete shift such as we've never seen before. We cannot be who we've been before. This is why on Monday, we start off with the last quarter square of the moon in Taurus, requiring us to know how we must better ourselves, how we must make ourselves more productive, more efficient, more living more into our self-worth, right? A new level and degree of respect and love for oneself, right? And whatever heavy-weighted decisions are coming up, this is requiring us to needing to adjust our emotions to the path, right? Even though we know where we're going, ultimately. We know what the path will be, ultimately the big picture, right? We've seen it. We feel called towards it. We know what it is, right? But this is requiring us to adjust our emotional vibration to it, our emotional frequency, our emotional song to the path that we must walk down. We must make ourselves comfortable. And if we're not comfortable, to either look at it, right? To either look at it, to see what past baggage, what past karmic situations, right, need to be healed. If you know ultimately that it's part of the journey, right? As you are questioning what is the right way to go, as you're questioning whatever has been revealed with the conversations Venus has been having with Pluto and Jupiter throughout most of this entire week, right? Whatever's been revealed to us, it's like, what is the right way to go? Whatever's right in front of us. Is this the path for me? Is this what really speaks to me? And even though it's an uncomfortable question, right? It's looking at your fears regarding what you already know. Because you already know, you already feel it, you already sense it, right? Cancer rules instincts as well. Your natural born instincts are leading you. And your heart knows what it wants. Your heart frequency knows what it wants. It knows what it must connect to, and it knows what it must disconnect from. And it required a great degree of needing to shift, right? And how you go about it, right? And how you go about connecting to what you know you need to connect to, and disconnecting from what you know you need to disconnect from, right? Because this is requiring us to be better than we've ever been before. Whatever major dramatic shifts we must make in our lives requires a new level of self, a new platform, a new foundation for ourselves. We must upgrade. We're upgrading who we are. We're upgrading how we go about everything from here on out, right? We must adjust. We must adjust to the path. And even though it may be heavy, it may be confusing, it may be somewhat all over the place, it may feel uncomfortable, it's looking your discomfort in the face. It's looking at what needs to be processed emotionally for you to feel comfortable on the path, to feel comfortable with whatever it is you are trying to manifest in your life. And so on the weekend, from August 19th through the 20th, we have a little break as the moon moves into Leo, officially preparing for the eclipse, which happens officially on Monday. I believe around 10 o'clock in the morning for Pacific Standard Time. But the moon on Sunday will conjunct Mars. That's as far as that's as far as it will get through the weekend in Leo, right? And as well, Jupiter moves into the third decan of Libra. So, as we have processed all these emotions, right? As we have come face to face with our own power, our own issues, and have somewhat upgraded how we handle our emotions, right? We've upgraded. We've improved. We've bettered ourselves, right? We're becoming more assured, more certain in who we are, more grounded. And we step into the weekend feeling into our heart space, feeling into what we know is essentially ours, feeling into what we are, feeling into this new decision we are making, right? Because the solar eclipse is completely changing our lives, right? But it will be the final release of whatever it is. And all relationships, all projects, all creations, every single aspect of your reality, right, gets a jump start as Jupiter moves to the third decan and prepares to come out of its shadow phase, which it has been in since June, right? And so we can finally move forward with wherever we felt we've been stuck in a certain pattern of relationship, right, to our world. We can make real change. We can make mature progress, right? We can move forward out of the past, out of what has been, and create a whole new pattern for how we relate to one another. And these are the last lessons of Jupiter in Libra until October 10th, which is when Jupiter comes into Scorpio. But from September 6th, which is when Jupiter comes out of its shadow phase officially, from September 6th through October 10th, there will be this window of opportunity where all of these faded relationships, all of these faded lessons regarding relationships, regarding relating to each other, right? Regarding projects and finances and balance and justice and harmony, right? Regarding groups and relationships itself, right? Jupiter in Libra rules relationships. Big emphasis on relationships. And between this time period as well, Venus and Mars will be meeting up in the sky, officially their exact conjunction in Virgo, which is, I believe, October 5th, just before Jupiter comes into Scorpio. So again, major emphasis on relationships. But with Jupiter coming into the third decan officially during the weekend, this is our last lessons. We're beginning the phase of our last lessons regarding the Jupiter in Libra story, which is coming to this point of balance with each other and within ourselves, within our communities, within our primary relationships, right? And first and foremost, it comes down to finding balance within yourself, finding balance with the two halves of your being, right? The yin and the yang, the inner and the outer. Everything must come together holistically, integrally, right? Integrally, you must be whole in order to relate to the other as a whole, in order to attract other wholes, right? And we're preparing through the weekend for the solar eclipse, right? So the solar eclipse will be the portal into the next 9 to 18 years of our lives, as it is dealing with, the nodal axis, right? And I know every eclipse, essentially, every eclipse is a portal into the next 9 to 18 years of our lives, because this is the cycle of the nodal axis, right? But with it being in Leo, in the fixed sign of Leo and Aquarius, this is regarding our love. This is regarding our self-identity. This is regarding our creative potential. And ultimately, with knowing all of that and choosing based on our soul frequency, right? Based on what we feel to be essentially who we are, as we step into this character, this new role that we're taking on for the next decade of our lives. It pulls us towards our community. It pulls us towards the most faded relationships of our lives, right? We're dealing with the soul and the soul community with Leo and Aquarius, right? We're dealing with the child within us all. And the child within us all has been the most wounded aspect of ourselves that has kept us living in the dark age that we've been in for most of our millennia, right? And as we're coming to the point where we are healing the inner child within all of us, our lives can exponentially shift. And we step into what we've known we've always been all along, right? Underneath everything. Our core frequency, our core essence, our core song. And with that, we connect to those who sing the same song we do. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Next week, I will be back to discuss the solar eclipse in Leo, which is occurring right on Monday, the beginning of next week, right? As well with Saturn stationing direct officially on August 25th. and Venus will be entering Leo, and there will be a Sun-Mercury inferior conjunction, 3 degrees Virgo. So lots going on next week, which I will be here to discuss. And it will be a dramatic shift from how things have been since the beginning of this month, right? As we have sort of, everything's been kind of nonstop chaotic, right? Everything's been kind of nonstop shifting, changing, intense, right? Very intense, but a good kind of intensity, right? An intensity that brings us closer and closer to the vibration of our soul, right? That catalyzes us, like pressuring us to become diamonds, right? So lots to look forward to this week and next week, but just remember that Venus is having many intense conversations throughout most of this week, so just be prepared for major relationship breakthroughs as well as conflicts, right? Major intensity brewing in the air, and it's what it's ultimately doing is testing our limits. It's testing our power, and it's testing us to officially step into our power right off the bat to the last quarter square of the moon in Taurus, which is requiring us to be better, be upgraded, right? To be more refined. However we've transformed ourselves since the beginning of the year, we're basically needing to walk our talk. Walking our talk is what this whole week is about. Walking into what we know we already are, right? What we know we already need to change, we already need to shift, and officially going about it, right? Okay, so again, I hope you all have a wonderful week. And if you would like a personal reading with me, I do have links in the description below for you to be able to do so. And use this week to completely change how you see yourself and your own power, right? This is requiring all of us to step up to the plate before we officially come to the solar eclipse in Leo, before the split actually happens, right? You don't want to wait for the split to happen to change. We have to change on the steps leading up to it, right? Because that's just the final release. That's the final cultivation, the culmination of whatever is brewing right now as we launch into our heart space, right? Officially for the next decade. This is the prep zone. This is the fire zone, and this is the most intense area that we must come to versus the eclipse itself. Okay, so again, the third time I'm saying this, thank you everyone so much for watching, and I will see you all next week.